Dala dangwa jebe dra nobar jebe geng traba dan tam je kembe bardu chobra jeba tam jege se jebe ma nang ka dang nyambe sen chen tam je de wa dan den tunga dan de ne de la na me pa yang da para so be chan chu ren po je do para ja dala dangwa jebe dra Nopa jepe ge tarpa dhan tham je kembe bardu chopra jepa tham je ge se jepe ma nang ka dhan nyampe sen chen tham je tewa dhan ten tunga dhan de ne de la na me pa yang Dopra sope chanchu rinpo je topra ja dhala dhamma jepe dha nopara jepe ge tarpa dham tham je kempe bardu chopra jepa dham je ge se jepe ma nangka dham nyampe senchen tham je dewa dham ten tunga dhan de ne de la na me pa yang Dāpara sope chanchu rinpo je topara ja de je de samma ge ge bardu lunga yisum ge wa la gu ma she bardu lunga yisum ge wa la gu du tering ne sun de ne ma san da sam ge bardu lunga yisum ge wa la gu. Now to the bottom of page 5. Sangye jodan soge chonam la chanchu bardu dani kyabsu che dagye jinsu gebe sonangye drola penche sangye jubra shu sangye jodan soge chonam la chanchu bardu dani kyabsu che Dāki jinsu gibe sonang ke drola penche sangye dumbra sho sangye chodan soge chonam la chanchu bardu dane gyabsu je dāki jinsu gibe sonang ke drola penche sangye dumbra sho Manang Gadang Nyampe Senchen Tamche Dewa Tang Dewe Kendan Dambara Gyurje Dungyao Tang Dungyao Ki Gyudan Dewa Gyurje Dungyao Mepe Dewa Dhammi Dewa Gyurje Nering Chada Nidan Dewe Tanyon La Nabra Gyurje Manang Gadang Nyampe Senchen Tamche Dewa Tang Dewe Kendan Dambara Gyurje Dungyao Tang Dungyao Ki Gyudan Dewa Gyurje Dunga mebe dewa dami dewa gyurje nering chadang nidang dewa danyang la nabra gyurje manang kadang nyambe senchen tamche dewa dang dewa gyudang dambra gyurje dunga dang dunga ki gyudang dewa gyurje Dunga mebe dewa dami dewa gyurje nering chadang nidang dewa Tam nyong la na pra gyu je bajra samaja bajra samaja bajra samaja malu semchen kungi kungi jim du de pungche me je jomze la gunam malu je shen kengi rube chumden goche ne re she shu zo argyam pa dyang pushpe dube aloke gende nevede shabda pradeja so so shi puju chushin medodam Rera linshi ninde gempa di sanje shinla mikde bulwa ye Drogo namda shindu chopra sho jase wadang chujin shabadang jesu yirang kuse sowa ye kewa chungse dagi chi sangpa tamche sobe chanchu jerungu The general laying aside. Last great Guru Vajra holder and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who reside in the 10 directions and 3 times. I who am called Gunjo Yishe Dorje supplicate you turn your awakened attention to me. From beginningless samsaric time until this very moment, under the power of afflictive emotions, attachment, aggression, confusion, pride, and jealousy, I have committed the 10 non-virtuous actions through the gates of my body, speech, and mind. I have committed the 5 heinous acts and the 5 secondary heinous crimes. I have transgressed the individual liberation vows, transgressed the precepts of bodhisattvas, and transgressed the samayas of the great vehicle secret mantra. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards the 3 jewels. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my gurus and teachers. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my father and mother. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my companions in the pure spiritual life. I have abandoned the sublime Dharma and disparaged the noble Sangha. In short, I now lay aside all faults and transgressions whatsoever that have become obstacles to the higher realms and to liberation, and that have become the cause for samsara and the lower realms. Before you, the great Guru Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 times, I expose the faults, I confess them, I am contrite, I regret them, I will not conceal them, I will not hide them. Henceforth I will restrain myself and abstain from them. If I do not expose and lay them aside, they will not be transformed. Therefore, by revealing and laying them aside, may they be cleared, may I be purified. Namo to the mandala of you, victorious Idam deities. Om, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Vajra exalted body. I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Padma exalted speech. Hum, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the perfect exalted mind. Three, I expose and lay aside the broken root and branch samayas. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed knowingly. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed unknowingly. The 3 non-virtues of the body, the 4 non-virtues of speech, the 3 non-virtues of the mind. I confess each of the 10 non-virtues individually with faultless disciplined conduct, possessing completely pure disciplined conduct, and through the disciplined conduct that is free of arrogance, may the paramita of disciplined conduct be perfected. To glorious Vajrasattva, I pay homage. Bhajra Sato Samaya Manubalaya Bazan and Denobanda and Mama Bhajra Sato Samaya Manubalaya Bazan and Denobanda and Bhajra Bajara Soto de Nobody de Domemo Masudo Masubo and the Memo Savazina Maja Samakamas Jamajaram Zerangro Hao Bagaman Savadana Gadabazama Jabazabo Mahasamaya Santo Ambazarado Samaya Mandabalaya Bajara Soto de Nobody de Domemo Sudogamo Subogamo and the Memo Savasina Maja Samakamas Jamajaram Zerangro Hao Bagaman Savadana Gadabazama Jabazabo Mahasamaya Santo Umbazara Santa Samaya Mandabalaya Bajara Soto Teno Pandita, Dedo Memo, Zudoka, Zuboka, Memo, Memo, Sapazina, Meja, Savakamasun, Jamajan, Zeranguru, Haha, Bagavan Savandaka, Bezama, Jabezabo, Mahasamaya Sado, Umba, Zamayaman, Balaya Baza, the Denabadita, the Memo, Zudoka, Memo. Subokayo Memo, and the Memo, as I was in the Meja, Savakamasu, Jamajan, Zeranguru, Hao, Bagavan Savandaka, Bezama, Jabezabo, Mahasamaya Sado, Umba, Zerasa, the Samayaman, Balaya Baza, the Memo, Zudoka. Subokayo Memo, Anurado Memo, so was the Memo, Jamajan, Guru, Hao, Bagavan Savandaka, Bezama, Memo, Jabezabo, Mahasamaya Sado, Umba, Zerasa. Samaya Manubala Yabazo, the Nobadita, the Memo, Sudoka Memo, Suboka Memo, the Memo, Savased Memo, Wakamasu Jaman Guru, Haha, Bagavan Savandaka. Bajrama Memo Jampesreba Maha Samaya Sato Umba Zrasa, the Samaya Manubala Yamazo, the Nobadita, the Memo, Sudoka Suboka. And the Redo Memo was in the Memo, Wakamasu Jaman Guru, Hao, Bagavan Savandaka, Besama Memo, Jabezabo, Mahasamaya Sato, Umba Zrasa, the Samaya Manubala Yamazo, the Nobadita, the Memo, Sudoka Memo, and the Redo Memo. So was it a member and just a Wakamasu Jaman Guru, Hao, Bagavan Savandaka, Besama Memo, Jabezabo, Mahasamaya Sato, Umba Zrasa, the Samaya Manubala Yamazo, the Nobadita, the Memo, Sudoka Memo. Andora the memo was in a major Sawakamasu Jamajan Zeranguru, Aho, Magaman Zavandaka, the Besama, Jabezabo, Mahasamaya Sado, Bazarasa, the Mandabala, the Rabadira, the Memo, Sudoka, and the Memo, Sawakamasu Jama. Chidam Srayanguru Hong Ha 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 Ho, Magaman Zavandaka, the Besama, Jabezabo, Mahasamaya Sado, Bazarasa, the Samaya Mandabala, the Rabadira, the Memo, Sudoka, and the Memo, Sawakamasu Jamajan Zeranguru Hong. Bagaman Savandaka, Bezama, Jabezabo, Mahasamaya Sado, Umbasra Sato Samaya, Mandupalaya, Baza, the Denobadida, the Domemo, Sudogamo, Subogamo, and the Domemo, so was it a moment, Sabakamasu, Jam Sarangoro, Bagaman Savandaka, Besama, Jabezabo, Mahasamaya Sado, Umbasra Sato Samaya, Mandupalaya. Bazara Sato Denobadida, the Domemo, Sudoga Memo, Suboga Memo, and the Domemo, so was it a moment, Sabakamasu, Jam Sarangoro, Bagaman Savandaka, Besama, Jabezabo, Mahasamaya Sado, Umbasra Sato Samaya, Mandupalaya. Nura to me was a member of Gamasu Jamajan Guru, how Magan Sabatana Besama Jabazabo Masamaya Sato, Umba Zero Sota Samayam and the Balaya Baza, the Romadera, the Roman was a Domazam and the Rotomaz. Umbazara Santa Samayam and the Balaya Baza, the Romadera, the Roman was the Romazo and the Rotomaz was the Jamajan Guru, how Magan Sabatana Besama Jabazabo Masamaya Sato, Bazata Samayam and the Balabazan. Anurato me bova so was it me banja so wakamasu jame janam zerongro ao magaman zavandara kata bezama me jame zero mahaza maya saanto umba zara santa samaya mata bala yamba zavandara darbandira antara me me zero me zo boga Umbasara Sato Samaya Manubala Bazo, the Rabadira, the Ramamo, Sudo, Memo, and the Rotomemo, Sabazin, Majas of Kamasu Jamin, Jerum, the Ramuro, Magos of the Ragata Besama, Jabezamo, Mahasamaya Sado, Umba, Zara Sato Samaya Manubala. Basara Sato Tenobadida, the Ramamo, Sudo, Mazubogamo, and the Rotomemo, was in the Majas of Kamasu Jamin, Jerum, the Ramuro, Magos of the Ragata Besama, Jabezamo, Mahasamaya Sado, Umba, Zara Santa Samaya. Balaya. Bajara Sato Tenobadida, Mama was a Mama was a Mama, and the member was a Major Sabakamasu Jamajam, Zerangoro, how Magaman Zabandaka Besama Major Bezereba Hasamaya Sato, Umbazara Sato Samaya Manamaya, the Nobadida, the number was a Anorada was in the Manajas of Gamasu Jamanjanum Zanguru, how Magasamandana Besama, Jamazaba, Mazamaya Santo, the Samaya the Robadida. The Domember was Sudoka member was Suboka memo, and the memo was in the Manajas of Gamasu Jamanjanum Zanguru, how Magasamandana Besama, Jamazaba, Mahasamaya Santo, Umbazara Sato, Samaya Manabalaya. Bazara Sato Tenobadi, Tedo Memo, Sudoka Memo, Soboka Memo, and Random Memo, as I was in the Majas of Kamasuja, Jenum Zanguru Hao, Bagaman Zavandana Gata Basama Memo, Jabas Ribaba, Mahasamaya Sado. The Samaya of the body, the Samaya of the Vajra, exalted body, is to at all times commit to, at all times hold to the oath of seeing this body as the mandala, the complete, perfect mandala of the Buddhists. And therefore, any and all unskillful actions of the body becomes impossible. The Samaya of speech, of Vajra exalted speech, is to remember that all sounds, all speech is mantra, and therefore all unskillful actions of speech becomes impossible. And all samaya, the samaya of the mind, the Vajra exalted mind, is to understand that all feelings, all thoughts, all conceptualizations are but the display of wisdom. And therefore all unskillful, unvirtuous actions of mind becomes impossible. Any moment when we depart from these three understandings, we have done damage to the samaya. And in that sense, until we are stable in the recognition of body, speech, and mind as Buddha, until and unless our practice of idam becomes so stable that at all times we can uphold these samayas, until then we always have to cleanse and confess, expose and lay aside all these moments, instances throughout the day and night where we have departed from the samaya of exalted body, speech, and mind. Anytime we have denigrated body, speech, or mind, deteriorated body, speech, or mind into the mundane state, those are all moments of damage to the samaya of body, speech, and mind. Therefore, we have to watch our samsaric tendency to wallow in self-pity. It's like a quicksand. Again, doesn't make you a bad person, that is a habit. It's just that it's a habit, and the habit is like this quicksand. Once you're in it, it keeps pulling you down, pulling you down, pulling you down. So not out of guilt, but simply out of being weary and tired of being pulled down again and again and again, we lay this aside, we put this aside. Knowing that once we are determined to lay this aside, to put this aside, then the samayas of exalted body, speech, and mind, the Vajra body, speech, and mind, being that they are the innate nature, then they will easily, spontaneously, instantaneously, naturally manifest. To manifest or to turn up as idam. Not seeing idam practice as some kind of contrived practice, but simply merely allowing the innate state to take a form, to take a appearance that benefit beings. Knowing and recognizing and appreciating that the lineage masters have advocated, have explained all the qualities and shown all the qualities of being able to turn up, to appear in the form of co-emergent Jakasamvara, the indivisible union of Heruka and Varahi, two and yet one, one and yet appearing as two. In essence, one, in appearance, two, and even in appearance as two, the inseparable oneness needs to be remembered. Varahi is the essence of wisdom. Heruka is the essence of method, compassion. Understand that Heruka and Varahi is the arising of the two bodhicittas. Varahi being ultimate bodhicitta, Heruka being relative bodhicitta, relative and ultimate, actualized in the form of co-emergent Jakasamvara. Now go to the Mahamudra manual on page 20, giving rise to aspiration bodhicitta with the following words on page 20. All enemies who bear hatred towards me, and all of us obstructors who would harm us, and the mandala of Mara, the dark forces that create disharmonious conditions and obstruct the attainment of liberation and all-knowingness. May all sentient beings, as numerous as space, especially our Father and Mother, those not yet liberated from the ocean of suffering that is samsara, be liberated. Those not yet freed from the bondage of defilements be freed. Those who have not yet found rest in the Shravaka vehicle or Pratyeka Buddha vehicle be brought to rest, and those who have not yet fully transcended suffering, I will lead them to completely transcend suffering through the Mahayana. Then page 23. Until I reach the heart of awakening, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue for as long as I live, and from now until this time tomorrow, I will take into my experience this Mahayana profound path of the union of the creation and completion stages. In the context of relative bodhicitta, which is what is expressed in these two recitations we have just done, then relative bodhicitta has two aspects, the aspiration aspect and the action aspect. Translating these two aspects into the practice of idam, recognize that to appear as Heruka, the male deity, is to fulfill action bodhicitta. To appear as Varahi is to actualize the aspiration bodhicitta. Now, page 26. Om Shunyata Jnana Bhadra Swabhava Atma Kohan. Meditate that all phenomena are emptiness, free from the extremes of conceptual elaborations. Within the state of emptiness, your own mind arises in the form of the syllable Hong, from which light radiates. From Yam comes a mandala of wind, from Ram a mandala of fire, from Bum a mandala of water, from Lam a mandala of earth. Upon that from Sum comes Mount Meru, in nature the four precious substances. Upon that from Bum comes a multicolored lotus. Upon that from Hung comes a cross Vajra set on the multicolored lotus. From the vowels comes a moon, from the consonants comes a sun. In the center of that light radiates from the letter Hung, clearing the obscurations of all beings and transforming them into the host of deities of Jaka Samvara. The light then gathers back and absorbs into the Hung, melting as bodhicitta. From this complete transformation in a single instant, you are Jaka Samvara. His body is dark blue, pure and luminous like the color of a stainless sky. He has one face and 3 eyes with fangs slightly bared. His left leg is bent, pressing on the left ear of black Bhairava, and his right leg is extended, pressing between the breasts of red Kalaratri. With his 2 hands holding a vajra and bell, he embraces the consort. His head is adorned with a cross vajra and a topknot of matted hair, tied with silk ribbons, beautified with a wish-fulfilling jewel. On the left side of his head is adorned with a crescent moon. His forehead is adorned with a garland of vajras and 5 dry skulls. A hanging garland of 50 fresh hairs is strung on human intestines. He is adorned with the 6 mudras and wears a tiger skin skirt. He possesses the 9 dramatic sentiments: amorous, heroic, repulsive, humorous, wrathful, terrifying, compassionate, majestic, and peaceful. In his embrace is the consort Bhagavati, red in color with 1 face and 3 eyes, her fangs fully bared. Her hair is loose, she wears a crown of 5 dry skulls and a hanging garland of 50 bone ornaments, and a girdle of bone ornaments. From below comes the tinkling sound of bells. With her two hands, the right holds a five-pronged Vajra cutter, and the left holds a skull cup of blood with which she embraces and offers to the Lord. She is adorned with the five mudras, naked and in inseparable union with the Lord. By the symbolic action of blazing rays of light from the Hung at his heart, the host of deities of the Chakra Sambhara Mandala are invited from their natural abodes. Now, page 80 for the 16 offering goddesses. Om Bajra Bine Hong Hong Pe Om Bajra Bam She Hong Hong Pe Om Bajra Medange Hong Hong Pe Om Bajra Muraje Hong Hong Pe Om Bajra Ha She Hong Hong Pe Om Bajra La She Hong Hong Pe Om Bajra Gite Hong Hong Pe Om Bajra Nirtye Hong Hong Pe Om Bajra Pushpe Hong Hong Pe Om Bajra Dupe Hong Hong Pe Om Bajra Dipe Hong Hong Pe Om Bajra Gende Hong Hong Pe Om Rupa Bajra Hong Hong Pe Om Rase Bajra Hong Hong Pe Om Sparashe Bajra Hong Hong Pe Om Dharma Dhatu Bajra Hong Hong Pe. Back to page 29. Having made outer and inner offerings, recite Ja Hong Bum Ho, thereby hooking, drawing in, binding and pleasing them, making them one taste. Bless your crown with Om, your throat with Ah, and your heart with Hum. Again from the Hong light radiates, inviting the five families with their retinues. Again, page 80. Om Bajra Bine Hong Hong Pe, Om Bajra Vamshe Hong Hong Pe, Om Bajra Midange Hong Hong Pe, Om Bajra Muraje Hong Hong Pe, Om Bajra Hashe Hong Hong Pe, Om Bajra Lashe Hong Hong Pe, Om Bajra Gite Hong Hong Pe, Om Bajra Nete Hong Hong Pe, Om Bajra Pushpe Hong Hong Pe, Om Bajra Dupe Hong Hong Pe, Om Bajra Dipe Hong Hong Pe, Om Bajra Gande Hong Hong Pe, Om Rupa Bajra Hong Hong Pe, Om Rase Bajra Hong Hong Pe, Om Svarashe Bajra Hong Hong Pe, Om Dharma Dhatu Bajra Hong Hong Pe. Back to page 30. Having made inner offerings, pray, may all you Tathagatas bestow empowerment. Having prayed thus, they bestow empowerment. With Om Sarva Tathagata Abhishekata Samaya Shri Ye Hong. As the elixir is being poured into us, filling the insides of our bodies, both the Lord and the Lady, as the elixir flows down to the level of the crown center, we receive the vase empowerment. The elixir continues to flow down to the throat center. Think that we are receiving the secret empowerment. And as the elixir reaches the heart center, we receive the wisdom, knowledge, empowerment. And as it goes down all the way to the navel center, we receive the word empowerment, also known as the fourth empowerment. And this elixir continues to fill the entire body, all the way down to the toes, to the soles of your feet. And the elixir fills up so much that it begins to overflow back up to the top of the head. Your entire body is filled with wisdom elixir. The excess liquid gathers firmly on top of your head as the male deity, and Akshobhya seals your crown. Although not explicitly mentioned here, when the elixir flows out of Varahi's forehead, or rather crown, top of the head, then that liquid turns into Buddha Vairocana. The deity is like a drawing in the sky, appearing yet without inherent essence, cultivated as clear yet without any basis for grasping. The deity's colors are distinct, like a rainbow in the sky. Their form is clear, like a reflection in the mirror. Their appearance is pervasive, like the moon's reflection in water. One should single-mindedly cultivate the Idam deity as the union of appearance and emptiness. The main branch of Idam practice, the main trunk of Idam practice is cultivating clarity, recollecting purity, stabilizing divine pride. From this main trunk, a few branches branch out. One branch is mantra recitation, another branch is making offerings and praises. Another branch is the activities in between the main meditation sessions, such as engagement in water offering, engagement in Sura offering for the benefit, all the activities of benefiting beings, and those can constitute another branch. Another branch is, of course, the preliminaries, such as the preliminaries of laying aside, exposing and laying aside of the faults. Another branch would be the making of offerings during meal times, thinking that whatever we consume, whatever we eat, are done as the fire offering to the wisdom deities, so that all food, all nourishment that goes into our body turns into fuel for the inner heat that lies at the base of our spine. Specifically, we can think of Guru Vajradhara dwelling in our throat center, and as we go about our day, one branch practice is whatever we consume is enjoyed by Guru Vajradhara in our throat center. Throat center is related to speech, which is also related to life energies. And so if all that we consume is blessed at the throat with the presence of the Guru, then it can stabilize our life energies, our life forces, which results in a more stable constitution of this body-mind, making it easier for us to practice the Dharma without too many distractions of imbalances in our elements, causing them to arise as illnesses and sickness. It is said that when we fully are able to hold the main trunk of Idam practice, then because suffering, confusion, outer suffering, inner suffering are all based on the mundane body, speech, and mind. When mundane body, speech, and mind dissolves, disappears, then suffering has no place to land. Karmic creditors have no place to ask for payback. There's no one there except for the deity, co-emergent Jakasamvara, Lord Heruka in union with Lady Varahi. No birth, no old age, no sickness, no death, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no end of suffering, no way to the end of suffering. And on your own, whenever you want, you can begin the branch of recitation of mantra using the visualization from Kyopa Rinpoche's Pith Instructions. First part of that is simply this chain of light that goes counterclockwise from the heart center, emerging from your right nostril, going out into space, blessing and clearing all the obscurations of the physical universe and all the beings within, turning all of this into the celestial realm of Chakasamvara, turning all beings into deities. Then that light comes back into your left nostril, down to the heart center, and once again light goes out, in, this way. And then there's the second part to this, whereby after the first part, the visualization of the first part stabilizes, the second part has the addition of light now specifically going into the bodies of the beings that are deities, going into them through their left nostril, going down to their hearts, coming back out from their right nostril, come out, entering our left nostril, goes down to our heart, goes out again from our right nostril, and so on and so forth. You can work on this. You can work on refining clarity of mind with regards to the visualization, with regards to the appearance. You can work on recollecting purity, meaning recognizing the symbolism of all the characteristics of the deities. And there was a document that Leonard prepared that could be useful to go through that lightly in a contemplative way. Or you could work on stabilizing divine pride, grasping the confidence, grasping the I-ness of the deity, and the ahankara, grasping the I-making of the deities. In Sanskrit, ahankara, I am. And this I am training. I am the deity. I am Heruka. I am Varahi. Ahankara. And this is also how the samsaric I arises, grasping onto mundane, ordinary substances. We give rise to I am, but a mistaken I am that then causes the whole display of samsara, the cycle of samsara, to manifest. Reversing that is what we are doing when we say, I am Heruka, I am Varahi. Stabilizing this divine pride. You can do the recitation of mantra in a verbal way or in just the mental way. Either is fine. Or in between, muttering very softly so that perhaps only you yourself can hear the sounds. Bhadra Sato Samaya Manu Balaya Baza Sato Deno Badeno Deno Memoa Zudoga Memoa Subugayo Memoa Anurado Memoa Zawazed Membaya Jasavanga Masuda Mejedam Guru Hum Hao Bhagavan Zavada Davada Bazama Memajabezemo Mahasamaya Sato Bhadra Sato Samaya Manu Balaya Baza Sato Deno Badeno Deno Memoa Zudogayo Memoa Zubogayo Memoa Anurado Memoa Zawazed Membaya Jasavanga Masuda Chidan Sreyang Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Zavada Dagada Bazama Memajabezemo Mahasamaya Sato Bhadra Sato Samaya Manubalaya Baza Sato Deno Badeda Dedo Memoa Zudogaya Memoa Subogaya Memoa Anurato Memoa Savasede Membaya Jasavakama Sujamenjadam Sreyang Guru Hong Ha Ha Ho Bhagavan Zavada Dagada Bazama Memajabezemo Mahasamaya Sato. Then now for the dissolution. From the heart center, the syllable in the heart center, the hum, light comes out to absorb, almost like a vacuum, pulling in all the external universe that is in the form of the celestial realm of Chakasamvara and all the deities. Absorb the entire animate and inanimate universe. Absorb that into the heart center. Then yourself, first Lady Varahi, is absorbed into your heart as well. First, the animate and inanimate universe is absorbed into both you as the male deity and you as the female deity. Then the female deity is absorbed into the heart of the male deity, dissolving into the home. Then the form of the male deity finally is absorbed into the home at the heart. So now there's only a home existing. The home dissolves from the bottom up, with the hook at the bottom into the body of the syllable, into the head of the syllable, the head into the crescent moon into the drop, the bindu, and the bindu now dissolving into the nada, which is a little squiggly that is on top of the bindu. This nada, this little squiggly form, like a worm, becomes as subtle as 100,000th part of a hair tip. If you can imagine, 100,000th part of a hair tip, as subtle as that. So not complete disappearance, but if you can fathom what that looks like, 100,000th of a part of a hair tip, that is the size of the nada. Then look at its essence. And rest. In the 16th century, the next major text in the development of the Fivefold Mahamudra manuals, the next major manual, in between this one, the next throne holder also has a Mahamudra manual. That was Dondrup Gyalpo. And this one is Choki Gyalpo. Choki Gyalpo's manual is the earliest that we have of this length. And then from Choki Gyalpo, his successor, Dondrup Gyalpo, also has a text like this based on Choki Gyalpo's text. But the next really the next evolution into finally the 17th century Choki Drakpa's text and Dhammakirti's text. The next one is Kunga Rinchen, Gyawang Kunga Rinchen in the 16th century. Gyawang Kunga Rinchen is very important in the history of Drigung Kagyu because at that time Drigung Kagyu was very weak. It was said that because Kunga Rinchen, his activities, his teachings, his efforts, and then it rescued Drigung Kagyu from disappearing. And so Kunga Rinchen is considered like an emanation of Jigten Sumgen. We very rarely say, someone is an emanation of Jigten Sumgen, but the lineage agrees that Kunga Rinchen's role in rescuing Drigung Kagyu was so important. Anyway, in Kunga Rinchen's manual, he says that the completion stage can arise in one's mind, in one's being, only through the profound path of devotion to the Guru. It cannot arise through any other means. And so, which is his way to then lead us to the next section of the Fivefold Mahamudra, from Idam to cultivating the Guru. So again, we think of devotion as something that just happens, either there or not there, but here it's spoken of as something that we nurture, something that we cultivate. And from that perspective, it takes time, it takes effort, and also it's not what we conventionally think of as devotion. We have our concepts of what devotion is, and especially in the Kagyupa tradition, it's not such a straightforward matter. And then, of course, again and again, as I've emphasized, also the Guru is not as straightforward as they sometimes speak of it as if, it's some person, or, on the other extreme, no, it's not a person, it's your own mind, right? So complex subject area. But many of you have been practicing together for a while now, and you have some idea. It's just that maybe words is hard. But the profound path of devotion with the Guru as the object is the third of the fivefold Mahamudra. But here I want to read you a few passages from Kyopa Rinpoche. Kyopa Rinpoche has one teaching called the Stainless Elixir. Immaculate Elixir, Stainless Elixir. Where it is a text that is structured around the Fivefold Path, but the emphasis is not so much on the Idam, but more so on the bodhicitta aspect. So throughout his life, Kyopa Rinpoche gave many teachings, and many of these teachings were subsequently recorded, written down. So different texts, you will see where he will say, practice the fivefold. And then within that text, it may be mostly focused on bodhicitta. And then The other 4 is mentioned very briefly towards the end, and say, and from this, do this, 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 this. Also practice these 4. Then sometimes in other texts, it's the idam that gets emphasized. Sometimes it's guru devotion. Sometimes it's natural state Mahamudra. And so in this particular text called the stainless elixir, and I've already shared one part, which is the part about the very special instruction on how to cultivate compassion, which maybe many of us are not ready to do yet. And the one that says the real object of compassion are harm givers, those who harm you. So like this one is very kind of makes seemingly, makes no goes direct to the point, the one who harms you, but see that the one who harms you at some point was your mother. Remember that one? The true core of body, speech, and mind for cultivating compassion. Yeah. So maybe you're ready, maybe you're not, Anyway, from that same text, so here he's talking about how we should reflect on the Buddhas and what they have cultivated in terms of love and compassion. And so I quote from there. You should also recall that it is taught extensively throughout all the sutras and tantras that the secret mantra Vajra vehicle of our teacher with a capital T, the guide, Tumpa, the one endowed with great compassion, that the secret mantra Vajra vehicle of our teacher, the one endowed with great compassion, is itself the trace, the sign. Trace as in like, when you walk, like say in the forest, you leave footprints, those are traces. That the trace is itself, what is the secret mantra, what is the Vajrayana? Is itself the trace of the immeasurable compassion that arose in him for those who cause harm. So particularly when the Vajrayana teachings arose and was given by the Buddha, it was given to those especially who cause him harm. You should also recall that the entire sublime conduct of our precious Guru is exclusively this. And you should recall all of the following: how he brings immeasurable benefit directly and indirectly to those who disparage his exalted body, speech, and mind. How for those who tried to cause his passing by means of poisoned food, he held their name placards while the community of monks performed the Gangani Dharani ritual and washed the purification placards. And this is a reference to this practice of purifying the negative karma of beings through a ritual whereby the names of the beings are written on a placard. Then you do a symbolic washing while reciting Akshobhya Buddha's mantra called the Gangani mantra, Om Namoranataya Om Gangani Gangani Rojani Rojani. But then of course you don't wash the paper, What you wash is you put a mirror reflecting the names on the paper and you wash. It's part of a ritual. And this is referring to an incident where, this is the point where I was saying, I was having a fight with AI about this incident. AI claims that, this is something that happened in Kyoba Rinpoche's life. Now, from this teaching, it seemed like it's talking about that, but then we have no record of something like that happening independent of here. It could still be something that happened. Then it will be really very interesting detail about the life of Kyoba Rinpoche that is not found in his standard biographies. So apparently, whoever this was, there was a great Lama where when someone poisoned him, instead of being worried about the poison that is going to kill him, is saying that as he lay there dying, he called his monks to come do this purification for the people who poisoned him, because he was so concerned that they have harmed someone like him. The consequences of that harm will be unimaginable for these people who poisoned him. And so this is a reference. And he says, it says here, and how he declared, it is my personal responsibility to ensure that these beings are not born in the lower realms. Innumerable instructions were given about cherishing the three lower objects. You must remember those practices one was instructed to perform. The method for making the previous experience of compassion stable is to make the mind stable in this way. And that means stabilizing finally your mind of compassion with regards to those that are most unthinkable in terms of that you should care for them, which is those who are directly harming you. Thus, by the power of generating boundless great compassion for those who do harm, at the time when the mind is born that takes on the burden of the harm doer's suffering, giving all of your own happiness and pleasure to the harm doer without any regard for yourself, the method for making progress from one level to the next is this. You must apply that very same method of cultivation. In other words, there's no other special technique except for to do it again and again and again, and stronger, that you cultivate compassion to harm doers in particular. See, because it's very easy to have compassion for innocent, what looks like innocently suffering beings. Like when we see a child, like a little one, that is said to be very easy for loving kindness to arise. When you see a child or a little one playing, having a good time, and the feeling of loving kindness just arises spontaneously. Likewise, here it's very easy, if you see a child, a little creature being harmed, compassion arises very easily. But that's just the start. That you don't even need to train. So what is mainly we have to train in cultivating compassion is like the worst of the harm doers. We have to cultivate compassion for them. So if these days you feel like there's a lot of harm doers, it's actually an excellent time to cultivate this kind of compassion to them. By cultivating in that exact way, at the time when compassion is born accordingly for all, then you can genuinely generate bodhicitta, third part. So first cultivate loving kindness. Because loving kindness is that quality of the heart, the quality of the mind that can sustain and protect you from your own suffering. Also sustain and protect you when you expose yourself to suffering, which is the basis of cultivating compassion. This thing that people call compassion fatigue, that's because they have, all of us, not they, us, right? We all have seeds of suffering that are waiting to ripen. And when we expose ourselves to suffering, those seeds ripen. And then we are not ready for that. Then we experience compassion fatigue. Then we have guilt that we're not feeling compassion, so on and so forth. So to protect against all of that, metta has to be strong. You first need to know how to summon, like a magician, how to summon happiness. As if happiness comes like a spell, like a wizard. Wave a wand, wave your wand, and happiness comes. And when you have that, then practicing compassion, opening your tender heart, there's no side effect. Sounds really good, oh, compassion is the tender heart, is the soft heart, and then we all like that, you know. Gilbert Rinpoche said that's a form of self-grasping. There's a close relationship between self-grasping and compassion. In ways that self-grasping and loving kindness, there isn't such a close connection. But somehow there is something very closely related between self-grasping and so-called compassion. We have to pay attention to that. But again, by having metta, loving kindness, as the ground that we work from, then when we cultivate compassion, it will be the compassion practice that the Buddha said that we should cultivate. Until to the point, you know, genuinely towards the harm bringers, towards those who cause the worst harm. In this example of, like, you know, someone has poisoned you, and instead of, like, you know, wanting them punished, as you're dying, you're not purifying yourself, you're purifying them. You say, you know, you can even say, you know, may my experience of this suffering purify their act of murdering me. He says, when you have that kind of compassion, then a more genuine bodhicitta, aspiration bodhicitta, can arise. The mind of supreme awakening. And he says, now bring into your presence the Guru, the Idam deities, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, the 3 jewels, the Dharmapalas as witnesses. Then you make the vow, I shall liberate all sentient beings who are not yet liberated, give breath to the breathless, and lead to nirvana those who have not yet reached it. Then he says, for action, you commit to 3 things. 1, practice restraint, restraining yourself from unskillful actions of body, speech, and mind. Then, 2nd, gathering virtue, engaging in all acts that are virtuous and skillful without being tired. And 3rd, benefiting beings. These are called the 3 disciplines of bodhisattvas. In the Soto Zen tradition, this is one of the 16 precepts, they call it, part of the 16. That 16 precepts comes from the 10 root downfalls in the Brahma Net Sutra of Bodhisattva vows. The 10, they call it the 10 heavy vows. And then plus the 6 in the Soto Zen tradition. But out of the other 6, 3 of them is this: to practice restraint, to gather virtue, and to benefit sentient beings. And so Gilbert Rinpoche says, you must, from the very core of your heart, without any consideration for yourself, now engage in the bodhisattva discipline of restraint, gathering virtue, benefiting sentient beings. Then this becomes the basis for idam practice, becoming easier and easier and easier. Don't have the mistaken approach to idam practice, which I but I at one point thought, oh, it's like this, like that, because we read too much, about, maybe if you do it at the early morning, it'll help. Or maybe if you do it late at night, it'll help. Or maybe if you do this, it'll help. Maybe you do that with the help. So yes, of course, these are from the experience of practitioners of the past that say that they have learned. Sometimes late at night when you do this, it will become clearer. Sometimes early in the morning when you do this, it will become clearer. So sometimes, so these different hacks, you can call them. First look at the third eye, then from the third eye to the three eyes, then to the whole face, then yes, including Kyoba Rinpoche, I mentioned on Monday's class, giving this tip on how, instead of directly looking at the tanka of the deity, put the tanka behind you, like I have an Amita use tanka now, then put a mirror in front and then reflecting the image of the tanka and look at the mirror. So these are hacks, if we want to call it that. But all these hacks won't work so well if the more basic material that we need to work with, we don't have. Or we have, we don't know how to work with. So Idam practice can become more and more impactful, more and more familiar, the more we work on bodhicitta. Bodhicitta comes from love and compassion. Compassion comes from love, right? So this graduated path doesn't sound very sexy, Doesn't sound very amazing. So people like the, instantaneous, sudden, all this, But practically speaking, nothing in life comes like this. Ask the, most famous poets, they'll tell you how many drafts of the poetry. Ask the greatest painters, they'll tell you how many they have thrown away into trash before it turns up at the National Gallery. Ask any athlete, they'll tell you how many hours they have to put in. So it's a lie. Spontaneously, instantaneously, sudden. Don't we wish? Don't I wish? But this graduated path, gradual, this, then this, then this, then this, as you build up, as you build up, as you build up, then what seems like instantaneous can happen. I've used in the past the example of making butter with cream. If you guys have never experienced that, you should. You're deprived, if you have never experienced making butter with cream. So get cream, go buy cream, put it in a container, and then shake it. Just shake, 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 until butter will form. And that moment between cream and into butter, it's almost like a split moment. And that moment is very, if you pay attention, is a very amazing moment. Suddenly all the oils come together and form this ball. It's like magic. It's like instantaneous. But it takes a lot of shaking first. Shake, 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 shake. And then comes together. Okay, let's do dedication on page 78 of the main manual. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtues, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Chanchu sem cho rinpoche ma ge pa nam ge gyu je ge pa nyam pa me pa yang gong ne gong du bell war show. Okay, you all have a good weekend. For those of you who are doing the Drigong Poa, tomorrow 10 a.m. Drigong Poa. If you have registered for that, you should have received an email with a reminder and also the Zoom link. If you are local to here, it's good to practice Poa together with others. That creates the conditions for when it's time to go, to have people supporting us. Okay, bye bye.